Hello again and welcome to the Mordian Glory After Action Report. So today guys we will be covering the After Action Report of the 750 point battle between my newly restored Mordian 50th Rifles and Johnny's live streaming obsessed Dark Elder Witch Cult. If you want to go and watch that battle report first, you'll get a bit of background on the two armies, and also there will be some spoilers in this after action report, of course, so make sure you've watched the first part. Okay, so before we get into it, I want to do a few shout outs. So this battle mat is from GameMat.eu. It is the Imperial base battle mat, and it is actually probably one of my favourite ones that they do. They do some more gritty ones, and this one is a bit more compartmentalised, which can put some people off, but I actually find it really good, because if you fill these compartments, you tend, relatively evenly, you tend to find you get quite a good spread of terrain, so it actually helps. I actually really like this. There's a lot of detail, like sort of cables and stuff. It is really good, and it fits with my terrain. Now this terrain is not by GameMat.eu, it is by Pwork War Games. Okay, it is their combat zone terrain. It's MDF, it comes unpainted and unassembled. I have actually done a video review of this terrain, and I have to say it is extremely good. I have put together plenty of MDF terrain in my time. Oh, hello there, Commissar Cat Kylo. So this is Lord Commissar Cat Kylo inspecting the field of battle after the Imperial Guard victory. So, like I was saying, there is review I've done of this terrain. It's really good. If you're looking for MDF terrain, this is the stuff I would recommend. I have put together my fair share of Warhammer terrain and MDF terrain especially, and it can be an absolute nightmare, but this stuff pops out really easily. All the parts fit together absolutely fantastically. Can't praise that enough. I should say these little generators are also by GameMat.eu. And last but not least at all, this bunker was custom made for me by Pandemonium Miniatures. There will be a link down in the description below. So there we go. Yeah, you like the bunker too, don't you? So there we go. So yeah, the battle report, it was a guard victory. Get a few shots for you, you little cat, you little love the camera, don't you? So it was a guard victory, and it was a convincing guard victory. The Dark Elder had to charge a bristling line of las guns, and the mission, it was a tough one for them, because obviously they had to keep some of their assets back in order to hold their objectives, which meant that they weren't able to go all in versus the Imperial Guard. So it did mean that the Dark Elder were sort of fighting a little bit at a disadvantage. But you saw on that first turn, they did a huge amount of damage. I've got about 70 infantry, and the first turn the Dark Elder killed over 20 guys. So, that is, they killed over 33% of my infantry, which is pretty, about 33% of my infantry, I'd say. So, they did have the damage output, but the problem was, is once they got in close, they took a lot of firepower, and the guard tactic, which I generally went for, was to blow the transports up and mortar what was inside. That made a huge difference, because essentially the two squads of witches that were in those transports were nullified. They were neutralized, because they couldn't get out in their first turn, and so that meant in my first turn I could ignore the jet bikes. They were going to do a lot of damage, but they weren't troops, they weren't important to the battlefield. So I was able to neutralize those troops, and that meant that I was able to hold on to my own objectives. And when those troops and those transports were gone, there was basically a couple of characters and a squad of bikes, and those bikes were going to cause me problems all day long, apart from the fact that I had my plasma veteran squad. Now, I normally don't like to put my plasma guns in my veteran squads, because I don't normally like to pay 11 points per model, but the veteran squad was sent to me by a loyal supporter of the channel, Sean Brabant. So absolutely super huge thank you to Sean for sending me those guys in, and he sent them to me a few months ago, but I've just been slowly painting the Mordians up to a point where I can actually use them in a battle report, and it worked out for the best. The Emperor smiled upon them, because they came in and they actually saved the day, because those bikes, I actually had very little to respond to those bikes. They were tearing me to pieces, and they were toughness 5 because of the combat drugs. And thanks to Johnny's cult trait. He's able to move and advance and charge with them. So, you know, you think about, if I hadn't been able to kill those bikes, if I hadn't had those veterans come in at that time, I really, really would have struggled. And I was just, I mean, I'm talking just able to get them within 12-inch range for the rapid fire. If I hadn't had that rapid fire, I think half those bikes would have lived for sure. And that would have made my life a lot harder. So those veterans, you know, the veterans that Sean sent me came in their first battle report, won me the battle. No doubt about it. If I hadn't had those veterans, or if I'd had them with grenade launchers and plasma guns had been in another unit, you know, they would have come in, they would have tickled the Dark Elder, but not done enough damage to them. And then those bikes would definitely started driving around and finishing me off. So yeah, those veterans came in. You know, that's kind of, and I used the officer as well, who, you know, with the power sword with the dagger of Tukasaka, who also was sent to me by Sean. So yeah, I think that's a nice little combo at 750 points. Would I keep that combo at a higher points level? Maybe, I'm not sure, but I can tell you that it was worth paying the extra points for those plasma weapons and that plasma pistol as well. So yeah, going over the guard list, you know, we've been talking about these assault squads, you know, with ones with a flamer and a power weapon. I have to say, they didn't really do a huge amount this game. The melter gun, it did hit, it did wound, but then it got stopped by an invuln save, as things seem to always happen. And the flamer squads, one of those flamers got to fire 2 or 3 times. It did nothing in all those goes, which is a bit disappointing. And the other flamer got to fire once and also did 1 wound to a raider. So the flamers weren't overly useful, but they weren't a problem either. They were fine. They gave me options, and they added to my anti-assault theme with my army. They are an assault unit, but they're also like a counter-attack unit, so they get nice and close, unleash a volley of lasguns and a burst from the old flamer, from the old cucker, and then if they can, they'll charge in and finish them off. But they're a little bit more of a defensive weapon, especially coupled with the Mordian Overwatch. Speaking of which, Mordian Overwatch was effective. I do love that trait. More and more armies, Tauren armies, are going the assault route. More and more are going the assault route, and that means that the Mordian Doctrine is becoming kind of anti-meta, which is very interesting. You know, it is something to keep in the back of your mind to think about. Priests. By the Emperor. Priests are awesome. You don't really fully appreciate it. Well, I've never really fully appreciated priests, because like, oh, I get an extra attack, that's cool. But it's like, think about that, you're doubling the damage output of your close combat potential. You're doubling your close combat potential, I should say. You're doubling your damage output. And I was fortunate that one turn I had the priest, and then he died, and then I was able to feel what it was like not having a priest. And it's just insane. That priest really, you just feel like your squads are just doing nothing. When they're in combat and you haven't got a priest, your squads, it's like you're not doing anything. It's a waste of time. But when you do have a priest, it's like you're able to take part in the assault phase. And because you're taking part in the assault phase, you're doing something in every single round. And if you're not, you know, and it's kind of like with Tower, it's like Tower are really good at shooting, but they can't do anything in the assault phase. But Guard have that opportunity to be, you know, to take part in every single phase of the game. The movement phase, we can outmove people with move. Shooting phase, obviously. Psychic phase, we can play our part. And with the priests, it allows us to do something in the assault phase. And that means you're taking part in every single aspect of the game. So, the pure infantry Mordians worked really, really well. We were able to beat the Dark Elder, which was fantastic. Johnny was saying he's won 4 games and he's won 4 games and drew 1 game with them, and that was in the last couple of weeks. So he's been a bit of a hot streak with them, and then the Mordians came in and taught him a bit of a lesson. But you know, really thank you to Johnny for coming down and giving us the battle report. His channel is Schola Progenium. Please go and check it out. Really nice start for the Mordian 50th Rifles. You know, really good, always good to get a win under the belt. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and of course, we'll see you guys next time.